Right, I guess we should get started here and we'll stop being distracted by the fact that there's a kangaroo in the front row. Hey everybody, welcome to the 15th annual, what do we call it now? Annual business meeting. That sounds weird to say that twice. End of the year business meeting. And my name is Cameron Collins. I am the president of the Alliance Council, and that's why I'm up here with all our esteemed guests. And we are going to have something a little different today from the kind of event that we usually have when we do this. So this is a unique event in sports, especially in the United States, because it's an opportunity for the fan base to hear from and interact with the actual front office of a club. You know, we as the Alliance Council are the you could say fan government, but I'd like to say democracy in action. We are of and from the fan base, from the season ticket holders, and we get elected into these positions. So if you want to join the Alliance Council, we'll talk more about it later, but you just need to get either 20 or 25 votes, depending on which source you look at. But once you get 20, you can join right now. We can talk more about that later. But we decided to change it a little bit this year and do a little bit different of a format so that it's more, something more unique, something that is special. You know, we're not standing on a big stage in front of a whole bunch of people. We want to have an opportunity where you can talk directly to the club and interact directly with the club and be able to we'll have roundtable conversation, we'll talk about issues, and you can ask questions throughout. Now, I do want to note, if you need to use the restroom, it's out there if you're here in person. The code is on the door, make sure you get the code, and of course we have drinks and food in the back. There'll be plenty of time at the end for Q&A, but if you do have something relevant to a topic we're talking about, don't be afraid to raise your hand and we'll try to bring you in at an appropriate time. Tonight, let's start with Sounders FC leadership that we have on stage with us. Introduce everyone first. We have majority owner of the Sounders, Adrian Hanauer. President.
Reserved applause.
President of Business Operations, Hugh Wood. We have CRO and CMO, Taylor Graham, who did you just break your mic? COO, Maya Mendoza-Ekstrom. And thankfully joining us tonight is the General Manager, Craig Weibel. Craig, later on, Craig will tell you all about the DPs we're signing. Don't worry, he's on top of that. So why don't we start off with an address from ownership? Let's let Adrian take it away.
Thank you, Cameron. So I'm gonna bail my friend Cameron out here because if someone heard his first comment, they might think he was crazy. There is literally a baby kangaroo in the front row here. Like, he was not joking. An animal caretaker. He's amazing. So there he is. Hey, I'm going to echo a few of Cameron's words that this is a really special evening. It's a really special part of what we believe in at the Sounders, that we are stewards of this franchise for our fans and our community, that active participation by our fan base, by our Alliance Council is good for our club, and it's good for our community. That it holds our feet to the fire, that it holds us accountable to what we're here to do, which, you know, most of you have heard kind of the brand mission, which is to create moments, enrich lives, and unify through soccer. So again, we try to look at everything through that lens, and hopefully you'll hear some comments tonight that resonate with you and that make you believe that we're headed in the right direction with this club. This year has been extraordinarily busy. It feels like it's been 3 years in one. It started early. As many of you recall, back into January, we announced a new front of jersey partner You held our feet to the fire, but we'll talk more about that. And we've been super happy with our partnership with Providence. We think they've really shown up in the community. We'll talk about it. And they have been great partners to us. Shortly after that, we were in Morocco for the Club World Cup. Certainly a disappointing end, and we would like another shot at Al Ahly, and we may get that in 2025 when the club gets to play in the Club World Cup again in the United States. We launched our Apple media rights partnership. Again, Apple has leaned way in. We believe that the quality of the production is fantastic, and it's the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure some have seen some of the additional features that have been added over the course of the year, and there are more on the way. We've got this tiny little construction project going on in Renton. This is going to be transformational for our club, for our players, for our fans also, as a gathering spot. I reckon that maybe next year we'll be there for this event. We launched the full Leagues Cup this year, which was a really great event in my opinion. Had a lot of media support, a lot of viewers. Obviously, Lionel Messi coming into the league at that time and joining Inter Miami and being a big part of the Leagues Cup was a good boost for the tournament. But we're really excited about what that tournament holds in the future as well. We launched new marks, Crest, Whale, Carnation, 74. Again, thanks to the leadership from Taylor Graham and a lot of people that he works with, but again, our community coming together and helping us in the process, making sure that we understood what needed to be at the core of our marks and who we are as a club. We had a season of soccer, which is still going. Very excited about that. Massive game next Sunday. I believe, if our stats are right, Western Conference semifinal appearance for 12th time. 12 years out of 15 in this league, speaks to the culture that has been built within the soccer organization. Along with that soccer team being so successful have been some of these stories of young players coming along, whether it's Reed Baker Whiting or Josh Atencio or Obed Vargas, Leo Chu. The continual pipeline that is pumping out players that are ready for the first team is really exciting. And again, all of this wrapped in our community efforts. The Rave Foundation, led by our amazing Ashley Fosberg, opened 6 fields in communities this year. Again, we're just getting started. And so, although this year was absolutely crazy, it feels like we're just sort of hanging on to the back of a rocket ship that's about to launch. There is so much ahead with 50-year anniversary next year, Club World Cup, Copa America, World Cup, perhaps a Women's World Cup after that. Very exciting times ahead, and so again, just really appreciative of all of your support, what the Alliance Council and our fan base do for the club, and just to keep pushing us forward. So thank you, and really looking forward to the event in the evening.
Thanks, Adrian. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Alliance Council before we really get into the meat of this meeting, just because we're here and we want to make sure you all know that we're here. We are, as I said, made of and from the fan base, and we do a lot of work with the Sounders and consistently try to make sure that our team is going the right direction, because we are all elected and it's all about democracy in sport. And we feel really lucky that the Sounders have agreed to and engaged in this. It's unique in the United States. But, you know, we had some big stuff we did this year from, pardon me, there's a helicopter flying over.
It's true. There's a helicopter. No, it's not a kangaroo piloting the helicopter, but
This was a year that was a little different for the Alliance Council. We decided to completely change how we do things on the council and created subcommittees and really managed how we interact with the club in a new way. I think it helps those that we deal with now, because then we have those committees that can deal directly with other groups within the club, and so we're dealing with specific departments on specific issues, and that's really streamlined our conversations and helped us have a larger impact in a lot of ways. The other major thing we do is that we hear from fans. You know, of course, always call your ticket rep. That's the first place you should go when you're having an issue. Call your ticket rep. But after that, find an Alliance Council member, tell us what's going on, tell us your story, and we're gonna make sure the club hears about it and that they know what's going on as well. And so that's one of our main functions there, is to make sure that we can take that information and get it to the club in a meaningful way. We worked with the Sounders on the MLS season pass, and you know, we talked about it. We weren't involved in the process of getting that done, but we got to hear about it in advance and really give them ideas and talk about the way it should work, as well as the program to return tickets, which, if I'm not mistaken, we have one of the most robust return ticket programs of any professional sports franchise, at least in the United States. So it's super exciting and really gives more value to our season tickets, because we're able to, if we can't go to a match, we can return it and have that credit go onto our account. The one big thing that we're not going to talk about right now, because we're going to have a whole discussion about it later, is that we were involved in the process after Providence was named as the jersey sponsor, and we're able to talk about our feelings on the topic. And the club sat down with us and other entities and listened and really heard what we had to say on that. And so we were representing the fans and what we heard from them on those issues. If you'd like to join the Alliance Council, you can go to vote.soundersfc.com and nominate yourself. It's a little bit older website, so if you have any issues, feel free to email your ticket rep and they'll take care of it for you. Or you can email me, cameron.j.collins@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that they hear from me as well. So you all ready to get into the meat of our discussion here? All right. So the first topic we're going to do is we're going to look to the future and how to attract the next generation of fans to the Sounders. You know, I have some questions along that line, but maybe Hugh, if you want to start on that, or Maya, or
Taylor is been doing the heavy lifting on our future fan base along with Maya. So once you guys start, then I'll come over the top if needed.
Well, we both have the future fan base living in our house. So we have a daily learning lab. I've got a 9-year-old and an almost 5-year-old, and you've got...
I've got two
Six-year-old,
six-year-olds.
yeah.
If anybody wants a 6-year-old, I got two.
Yeah.
I'm looking for childcare next Sunday at 6:30. If anyone doesn't have plans.
I've been volunteer Alicia for you, but she might be with us.
Is that the name of your kangaroo?
No. Roger's old person.
Ah, got it. Roger's a dad, by the way.
Yeah.
Mr. Roger Levesque. I know you're gonna watch this, buddy. Congrats.
I think all kidding aside, the reality is that our children and the children like this young man's child who are a little bit older are our future fan base. They are absolutely the core focus for Major League Soccer as we look to the next 3 and 4 years. They are the ones that are disproportionately consuming product on Apple TV and not only tuning in, but tuning in for longer. They are the ones that will buy our Orca and lean into Sammy the Sounder, and they're the ones that also care about our community. And I think what we're starting to be able to do is to bring all of those threads together through our organization. And that's really what is Taylor's and my task as we think about the ways in which we show up in community, where we show up and when we show up, and how we bring those young people, whether they are kindergartners or first graders or middle schoolers or high schoolers, into the Sounders family. That's not just showing up for them, but them being invited into match day, into Long Acres for those students that are living right around our facility in Renton. And then ultimately, how we evolve our products and our services to make sure that we're meeting that next generation where they are. They are digitally native, not just literate, native. My 4-year-old is more adept on my iPhone than I am. And so that is a tool, an opportunity for us to harness. They are increasingly bilingual and biliterate, right? That is the largest growing demographic when we look in King County under the age of 18. It's not one or the other, it's both and. And so how do we lean into those dimensions of sort of the community that's just around us and the world in which those young people navigate? And soccer is that love language. I challenge you to drive to elementary schools around the greater Puget Sound region. There's a soccer game going on at recess pretty much everywhere. And it's boys, and it's girls, and it's non-binary students, and it's every race and every demographic. Disproportionately, there's a soccer game going on. In fact, my daughter got told she was too rough with the boys and got in trouble with the playground teacher. But that's what's happening. And so how we use Long Acres as a platform to bring kids in and engage them, how we use our match day, and I know 7:30 is late, but my kids come. They're coming. Childcare is me. But how we use our match day and those opportunities, how we use that technology base, those are the things that get me really excited about what's in front of us.
I'll build off that real quick. So I'll use the same analogy when we talk about the 50th anniversary, because I'm sure that's going to come up. And when we think about how we can grow our club and our fan base through youth, don't think of it as a separate job that we're trying to do, but everything that we do needs to incorporate into it. So it's the foundation. So every single thing that you experience as part of match day or non-match day through the club should have an element in which a youth, a younger population can engage with it. So the two biggest drivers of fandom are, take some shots out there. What do you think the two biggest drivers of fandom of a sports team are? I heard it out there. I'm just going to make it up. So it's participation. It's participation, and as you get a little bit older into the young teens, it's through content and through storytelling. And so when you think about the evolved system that we just ran out, and you guys helped us build, thank you again for that. It's not only making sure that there's doors within the organization where different types of fans can either continue to engage or become part of this club, but even think about the way that the system was designed was to be able to scale up for a giant video board at Lumen, or it could scale down and show up on a smartphone. The scalability of our former system was a challenge. And so as you think about maybe the entry point with the younger generation on a phone specifically, the ability to do that in a diverse way to serve multiple constituents is super important. So fandom, content, it's going to grow. 70% of fandom is locked in by
14.
By 14. So if you have any kids under the age of 14, turn them into ambassadors for us. And we're going to continue to do more. There's more in the youth soccer space. The ability to have our own training facility is for sure going to allow us to do that. But the next 5 years, I fell in love with soccer when I was 14, and it was when the World Cup came to the U.S. in 1994. And so I get super excited to think about my 6-year-old twins being that next generation and being able to go across the street. If we can get tickets, that's probably going to come up too. But yeah, we're excited about where we're going, and then the platform and the opportunity that comes with the next generation of Sounders fans.
quickly before we move on to another speaker on this, or maybe Adrian, you might want to tackle this as well. Can you talk a little bit about the role you think the Rave Foundation and the fields are playing with Ashley in the audience here? Hi, Ashley. Obviously, I went to the one that opened in my neighborhood, New Holly, and saw the kids out there engaging with the field, you know, doing martial arts with a teacher, and it was just a super fun event. What role does just opening these fields do for creating future fans?
Well, that's a softball. I appreciate that. You right? Do you want to answer that one? I can take that one. That's right. No, I think it's two things. The first for us always is it is a tangible investment that anchors the opportunity for a whole lot of other things. We build soccer fields, yes we do, and we want kids to play soccer, but it's not the only thing that happens there. And so when we go into a community, it is usually the soccer field itself is the end product of years and years and years of sitting with community, co-curating with community, and asking them, okay, yes, soccer field, we will do that, but how can soccer help? How can soccer help? And what we're starting to get now from the fields themselves are a number of partners at a grassroots level. Right? One of the things the pandemic killed were grassroots programs, youth access and opportunity programs, because those things were really hard to sustain financially with volunteers, people moving away. Those things went away. And what has happened now when we look at New Holly is it's an anchor location for some of those programs to come back. What Rave is doing now as we shift to look ahead to the next 50 years for Rave, right? We opened 6 mini pitches this year. If you do the math really quickly, that's 19 of 26 of our original commitment. We're gonna get to 26 well before 2026. So what's that next hurdle look like? One of those things is and we're actually piloting it this fall, is a grant program. A grant program to our Rave target communities for folks who live around those fields who are investing again in sustainable programming to say, how now can soccer help you, right? What will you do with this field to keep the game going? Because we can't be in 26 places simultaneously, and so it really is about catalyzing the community and providing not only the physical tools, but now some of the financial tools to keep activity going 365 days of the year. And also with that nice new crest as part of the experience. And so we've always said that when we go in and make an investment in community and for the Rave Foundation, the Sounders will show up. Give us a call and we will show up. We mean it when we say soccer balls for life, right? And the community does call us back. And it's not when the cameras are on. It's not only when Sammy the Sounder can be there. Sometimes it's in small ways, and sometimes now it's in the pay it forward ways that we're starting to galvanize and catalyze more equity and more activity that's not directly from Sounders FC showing up.
Just a quick question. I'm out of touch now. My kids are probably in their 30s now. I remember my oldest was in a clinic with Taylor when he was growing up.
Sorry about that.
He's passed away.
We have a mic for you right here.
I was just going to say that I don't know what the interface of is with players right now that go out in the community and participate in clinics and stuff like that. My youngest one was also when Man U was here playing the team from Ireland. Celtic, yeah. They went out and got to train with them for a week out there on the side. And that was a real big impact on all of them and stuff. Are those kind of things still happening now?
You know, it's hard. Yeah, I would love to steal Craig's whole first team and take them into community to train. I think the reality of the scheduling environment and the demands of all of the things we're trying to do there make that difficult. But what has happened and what is continuing to do is our alumni are leaning back in. We have 6 alumni that are on the board for Rave Foundation, and between those individuals, their friends and constituents, when we ask, hey, would you like to come do a clinic, they're showing up. So it's James Riley, and it's Steve Zakawani, and it's Brad Evans, and it's Craig Tomlinson, actually, for those of you that go in the Wayback Time machine. It's Chance Fry, it's Colin Rigby, I'm trying to remember all of, it's John Kennedy Hurtado. It's all of these players that stayed here that when we call on are out doing clinics in with us. That's PE takeovers, that's clinics in Eastern Washington, So yes, our players are here, but it really is catalyzing that alumni base that has been pretty great over the last few years.
I remember in the early years, maybe in the early years of playing, we were out in a lot of different places. The training requirements have changed. The evolution of what is asked of our players has changed drastically since 2009, even just in terms of the tracking and the performance. And I think there's a little bit more emphasis on the performance side today for sure than there was in 2009. That's not saying our players aren't in the community, because if you follow any of our guys, Jordan's running camps, TUND, I mean, he's out there all the time. Steph, I think he's community member of the team for the third, fourth, fifth consecutive time. So the guys are out there, but we've got a fleet of ambassadors simultaneously. I did the podcast with Steve and Brad actually yesterday. I think their top 4 fell through, and I was in the office next to it. And Brad was just back from a school assembly, and he was describing the face of these kids when Sammy the Sounder walked in. They went absolutely crazy. There wasn't one player probably that would have elicited that emotional response than Sammy. And so back to your core question of what are the resources that the club has to be able to create that moment that your son had? Hopefully it was a positive one. We've got, with 50 years of history, we have more levers to pull.
And at risk of saying so, I usually say things that they regret and tell me we're wrong after the event. But you know, having our own training facility and our players there and fields right there. Look, Jackson Reagan may not be running a training session after practice, but to walk 100 yards and engage with some kids that are, you know, it makes it all work a lot better given the requirements of the players these days.
I see that same thing with the Kraken facility. I live up north, and being up there in the Kraken facility, the kids can walk in there, and I've got kids in my neighborhood who are clueless on hockey, and all of a sudden they're like big hockey fans. I'm like, I look forward to that.
And we'll have plenty of more time for questions at the end too, but feel free to chime in on different topics as we go, because now we get to a big one, which is the club launched a new jersey sponsorship this year. And there was, in the community, there was some pushback on some of that, and maybe in that pushback, and I know Alliance Council was involved in these conversations with you all, and along with our friends in ECS and Gorilla FC, talking about why there was concerns around Providence being the New Jersey sponsor, and that might have overshadowed a lot of the amazing programs that were coming out of that. But I was wondering if someone could speak about this partnership and kind of the process and what was learned through the fan reaction and what's happening moving forward.
Well, maybe I will frame it, and then Taylor Maya can dig in, Craig to some degree. You know, when we launched it again, some of the feedback caught us by surprise. I think we said that once the partnership was launched. But what we had set as criteria for that partnership was a partner that was going to take extraordinary care of our players, a partnership that was going to show up in the community, great people to work with, that would listen, be collaborative, sensitive to our needs, and there was a reality of a financial partnership that gives us the fuel necessary to try to put a winning team on the field and win championships. So that was the criteria by which we ended up partnering with Providence. I believe personally that they have shown up in those 4 categories and attributes. Certainly everybody will have their opinions, and and we're not going to make everyone happy. Again, our goal also was to make sure that we were able to be true to our values as a club. Again, we have 50 or 60 sponsors and we have media partners, and we do not agree on every single thing with all of our partners. But what we do agree is on trying to make our community a better place and leave this place a better planet. And so we feel good about that. I will let my colleagues here dig into any specifics.
Cameron, I was in those calls with you. I think I saw Heather too. We had similar calls with many key constituents, with our alliance council, and with our supporter groups. Echoing what Adrian said, what we heard was twofold. Number one was it was a surprise, it was a shock, and number two, there was a questioning of the values specifically to the transgender community, reproductive rights, and underrepresented communities. And what we heard from you is prove it. Prove that you're still the same club that you are. You say you're a values-based organization, and that's what we've been doing. And so I think I'm going to pass it over here because a lot of the work that's been done are the things that you guys just don't see. And today's a chance to be able to showcase a lot of that work to show that we are still the same organization that we are.
I think the single biggest number for me, and numbers I think are important here, there are over 15,000 students in Renton Public Schools at the middle school or high school level. Every single one of those students today, so starting with this school year, has immediate access to mental health care on campus if they need it. If they are in a moment of crisis, they can access mental health care today. That is not how the school year started a year ago. That's not, we set out the target for that to be the case, to get to full coverage of the school district. I don't know that either Providence or the Sounders expected to be there to start this school year, so basically between 6 months of the partnership and the start of this school year. There are over 600 students already since school started this year that have accessed mental health care through that ecosystem that otherwise would not have had it. And that is everything from I'm feeling really down today and I just want someone to talk to folks who are in acute crisis and need to talk to somebody. There are over 6,000 students this year who have participated in some form of soccer activity with us that has also had mental wellness, social emotional learning tied to it, curriculum coming from our partnership with Providence. There are over 2,000 students in Renton Public Schools that have gone through specific social emotional learning sessions that we have facilitated, often with Brad Evans and Sammy the Sounder, to make it sticky. In an assembly form, in PE forms, where we're using the science and the best practices of self-care and self-love, but through soccer. That is since February. Any of you who work with school systems also know that it is a remarkable amount of work that has gone in behind the scenes, and absolute full credit to Renton Public Schools and their entire executive leadership team, because it's a lot to train staff on site in the systems and practices. It's a lot to mobilize full assemblies and groups of students to get places, and for school systems to fully and wholly adopt the curriculum that's coming in the door, because there are standards for these things and they are the experts on the ground. We said that our partnership with Renton, with Providence, was going to take time, and we wanted it to be robust, and we are covering the entire district in 1 year and starting to look at what this partnership can leverage, not only in the depth of what's available through this partnership in Renton, but how we can scale it. I will tell you that the league, at the league level, MLS league level, is really, really, really leaning in heavily to mental health as one of the core pillars of its youth and impact initiatives coming down from the top. And they are looking for programs that can support these in-school sort of curriculum kinds of partnerships. This is not necessarily the only model, right, that's available, but it is a model. I think the other thing for us, as we look at the development of curriculum, is their entire suite of experts has been at our disposal since day one. And these are folks that are working not only locally, but at the national level as part of looking at critical mental health care in our school system, and then providing those best practices back to us, because we are interacting with youth in other spaces. And so we can make sure that social emotional learning and wellness are a part of how Sounders show up in community in everything that we do.
I'm gonna before wives you go. You know, this is another benefit to the partnership. We recently announced a partnership with Cambia Regents Health Insurance that was a direct follow-on from our partnership with Providence, and Regents, also a new Renton tenant, has leaned into physical health in the Renton school districts. So now we've been able to amplify these events by focusing on not only mental health but physical health. And it's a powerful partnership between Sounders, Providence, and Regents. So sorry. Wes.
Oh, you're fine. You're the owner. No, and just from the team side, I think it's important to note that the treatment that the players have gotten, it's been seamless. It doesn't come without work. Our medical group has worked really, really hard with their medical group to make it easier. But the health of our players this year has been fantastic. And to be fair, it's one talking point of this whole scenario, but it is important to note that our players and their families and the people involved are all really happy with the transition as well.
Which wasn't necessarily to be the case, right? I mean, sometimes transitions, our previous partner was there for a long time. And so to transition this seamlessly for the team it's been great.
All right, let's take on another hot topic, at least among the fan base, and discuss the Apple TV deal that came down this year and how that's changed from the way we do broadcasts to the way that the game itself is filmed.
Yeah, I'll start there, and then I'm sure Taylor can come on with some numbers of actually how the adoption has gone. But this was a first of its kind in sports. It was more of a partnership between MLS and Apple, one of the biggest media companies in the world. And by all accounts, by Apple's viewpoint and MLS and virtually every club, it's been an unbelievable success. The adoption and the viewership, the length of time people are watching our matches, the availability of our matches worldwide is again unprecedented. So again, the subscribers obviously fueled a lot by a player that happens to play in Miami, but even before that time was tracking even better than Apple believed it could. I think as Adrian mentioned early on, the product itself is getting better, not by months, by weeks. That team is continually engineering how they might have that product show up with multi-language, multi-screen, social ways to watch the game with your friends that might be watching somewhere else. There's a bunch of adaptations that are coming for that product. And I think you're going to continue to see a push for Apple to not only promote the viewership, but promote the product of MLS. And I think it puts the entire league on a different platform that, again, is part of what the commissioner saw as the opportunity. I don't know if you want to add in terms of specific numbers and viewership.
I've had similar conversations with subgroups of the Alliance over the course of this season. I usually start with how many of you guys are watching Sounders matches on MLS Season Pass? I hope it's all these fans. Thank you. Change is tough. Change is tough. So again, there was a little bit of learning curve just to make sure we could everyone subscribed. Proud to be able to include it in the membership too, right? So there's no barriers to entry, but also acknowledge that this is year one of a 10-year race. So we're learning a ton at a time. Building off of what Hugh said with respect to the way that Apple has been engaging with clubs is we got a call I got an email from Major League Soccer on December 26th and said, hey, Apple wants to jump on a quick call and talk about the ways that they can help promote the Sounders. And their idea was, hey, can Ted Lasso write a handwritten note to each player that made the U.S. World Cup team and put it in their hometown? So like, where do you want the billboard to go? And so I don't know if you saw what happened with Jordan, with Christian, but that's the way that they're thinking. Things happen in days, and they reach out to clubs and say, how can we support you in telling the stories of your athletes that are representing our country playing in the World Cup? I'm trying to dive into some numbers. So 34 regular season matches. I think we had 14 in front of the paywall. And so you even just think about, yes, there are barriers to watch Sounders today that didn't exist before. There's a lot more doors open that have never existed before. My mom watches games now from out of market. I've heard anecdotally through players from the team that their families can now watch in over 105 countries. You think about the power of now people in South America or in Africa and Europe being able to watch their family play. That's unlocked through just one simple door that you get 100% of this thing. My experience from just a production standpoint has been really good. I'm curious what your impression has been. To think that the entire production has been stood up in less than a year, and the quality of where it is, I think, is tremendous. Our viewership changes whether we're in front of the paywall or behind the paywall naturally. And so if you, I'll get to you.
Our dry-siders can watch.
They can watch, yes. Yeah, so you think about the ability to connect with new fans, and all you need is a smart TV, a cell phone, or internet access. For 14 of our matches, there are 0 barriers to entry. For over a third of our matches is tremendous. Now, the thing that I would ask for help, and I think our biggest challenge after year one, is we need to figure out how to unlock our matches being in bars and restaurants. Because the way that bars and restaurants can watch is very different than consumers that are just carrying around a TV in our pockets. And so Michaela's here. She had a team of people that were going out and walking into bars and say, hi, my name's Taylor. I work with the Sounders. Do you have DirecTV for Business? We'd love to give you 10 complimentary tickets for whatever game you want if you'll sign up and push and subscribe this thing. So the value, and can like make it as easy as possible. The cost for a bar is $100, and we could probably cover that in a tab pretty darn quickly if we can drive people into that establishment. It's really tough to get the decision maker at that time to push subscribe on the button. And so it's gonna take a hand-to-hand combat. It's gonna require you to walk in your watering holes and say, can you please find the decision maker and go and do this? And here are the resources that the Sounders are doing to make this advantageous for you and your establishment. And so I think that's the next step for us that we really have to figure out how to improve heading into next year is we need our matches in bars and restaurants, especially in a cultural moment, which is our 50th anniversary next year, and especially over the next 3 or 4 years building into the World Cup. Sounders need to be everywhere. And I think we've taken step one from the consumer standpoint, from the B2B standpoint. We need your help.
Real quick, along those lines, Taylor, have you heard anything about an Android app? Because I know us people with adult phones are really are missing out.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So a couple things. There are challenges on watching on an Android phone relative to an Apple phone. It's terrible. It doesn't work all the time. Yeah, so what I have, at least in the resources that, so I've actually never had the user experience, so I'd love to learn if you want to talk afterwards, but the way that they've positioned to us is Android, iOS, you still have access to the matches, you just have to go through a web browser form as opposed to through the Apple TV app within the ecosystem. So it's there, maybe it's not quite as reliable or the user experience is a little clunky.
Yeah, about a third of the season it didn't work.
Okay. Okay. Well, let us take that back and keep going. But
Can I?
yeah, go ahead.
Just to add to that, my Android experience has been pretty good using the Chromium browser. I don't know what other problems other people are having, but it is kind of weird to have to go through a browser, but it always works for me. my Roku. So the conspiracy theory is they want us to have Apple devices, but my Roku will once a month log me out, and I have to go through this long, probably takes me like 20 minutes process to get my credentials back on a Roku. So it is kind of complicated when you have these different devices that aren't Apple.
Unfortunately, your Ticketmaster app has been doing the same, and I can tell you with 100% certainty, we don't want to log you out of that and make it easy for you to come to games. So we get it.
And I was going to bring up the bar thing. I'm glad you did, because multiple bars, people have come to me, because I as an Alliance Council member, I really reach out to people, and they really, even Starfire was having trouble with this.
So I think the mechanics are, just to educate. So DirecTV for Business is a B2B cable product. That is the system by which someone just needs to go back and subscribe to it, just like they do NBA TV or MLB. If establishments don't have DirecTV for Business, it's a challenge right now. And there are some establishments that just have smart TVs and they're using a different login.
Do you know how much that costs?
It's the same price. It's the same price. So for the season, if you have an Apple TV Plus subscription, I think it's $99. And so you think about, and it's not only 34 Sounders matches, it's 100% of MLS matches, including Leagues Cup. So you think about just even the cost per match that they would get and the number of beers it would take. If that doesn't sell it to them, we'll give them tickets. We'll give them tickets and we'll take care of their employees. We'll use it for giveaways. We'll use it for promotions. And so either way.
I think you're missing a couple of things. Low-income families that can't afford to get the Apple TV Plus or then the MLS app on top of that. And then what about the guys that we just saw with the red lights and sirens? You know, they come back from a call, they don't have it in their station, they can't watch it. School teacher on a Wednesday night that's doing parent-teacher conferences and can't watch it. I mean, there's a lot of other people out there. It's not just the bars. If you're traveling and you're in an airport, you can't watch it. There's a lot of places where you just can't. I can't watch the Sounders anymore if I travel because my phone doesn't work, and and I'm a season ticket holder, and I can afford to have. But
What do you mean you can't watch it? You're a season ticket holder, and when you travel.
if I travel, I can't watch it in the airport. If it won't work on my phone, I can't watch it. I share Apple TV Plus with my oldest son, and if I try and log onto it through my phone, it won't let me. I have to use his credentials, which turns my phone into his phone, and that's a bad thing.
I won't get into
And maybe I'm just
Apple sharing issues.
Yeah.
I hear you for sure, and I think what I would love to do is to try to figure out how to make our matches as accessible for everybody, and just to put it in a different way. So last year we had a local deal with Fox 13 Plus. We were national TV probably about half the time. So you required cable subscriptions for ESPN or FS1. We're 14 matches this year. So again, we're going to push to try to get in front of the paywall. No barriers to entry as long as you have connectivity, right? And so there is a barrier for some. There are a lot less barriers for some as well. And so we're going to work to make sure our matches are front and center. But there are actually more people that can unlock Sounders matches now than before, but also acknowledging there are some that had access that it's more challenging.
So
And-
my home bar has it. It's very disconcerting. If there's a way, just for some feedback, if the Apple pregame could show up on the B2B, because it shows a blank screen right up until kickoff. So everyone in the bar thinks, should I just now leave and go to another bar that might be showing it? That's just feedback for going forward.
Heather, great question. We've heard that, and we've also heard the whip around show. The MLS 360 should be in
Anything.
a format for
Anything to say
B2B.
you're on the right channel and it's going to show shortly. So order another beer.
And I think I'll just, at risk of not being as sensitive, I know it feels like this we're the tip of the spear, but this train is heading down the tracks. Like, this is happening. You know, and we will not be the only league and team that have this relationship with a streaming company that expects you to either pay or to, you know, and if you've seen the struggles of the regional sports networks who are going out of business, that is, you know, exacerbating this and speeding it along. So again, we absolutely feedback Android for sure. Like, we need to make this as accessible. Bars, absolutely, as much in front of the paywall as behind the paywall is amazing. But you know, this movement is happening. Back to Maya's digital native young people. I have a 7-year-old. Has no idea how to navigate TV channels, but get them into Apple TV. I'm like, Saturday morning, I'm one of those old guys. I'm like, I have no idea what channel this game is on. He's like, Dad, it's on CBS, you know, CBS Sports Network. Like, and he's in there, and so I feel your pain in some ways.
Two more quick facts, and then Cameron, I'll let you take it. Our Leagues Cup viewership, we talked about Leagues Cup in year one as well. So our viewership against Monterey was 4x our number 2 viewership in terms of the reach. You just think about the competition. So you might say different audience, different country, different distribution. Our match against Salt Lake was 2x our average, and it was behind the paywall against another MLS soccer team. And so that, you think about the growth opportunities related to exposure to our players and our athletes and our heroes and our club culture and our match day, it's going to be a huge driver as we keep growing this.
A toggle where you can see advanced data and analytics going on within a game. Hugh mentioned a toggle to chat in real time with your friends while watching a game. Your friends are across the world. In certain states where sports betting is available, a toggle to be able to, you know, bet and interact with your friends. And again, it is not, you know, that is not the panacea. It's not open access for everyone for free. But these streaming products are just going to get better and better and better. And you know, look, they know that they have to deliver value as well in order to have people subscribe. You know, it's the race, you know, with Netflix and Apple TV Plus and all the streamers who are trying to create amazing content. So you keep buying the subscription or season tickets.
Exactly. And we'll have more times for question on that in Q&A, but we have one more topic we want to discuss before we get to Craig to talk about the team itself. 50-year anniversary. We have a really big milestone coming up.
Yeah. I'll go super fast, and then I want this to be engaging because I know you guys probably have a ton of opinions. Even just at the table, in the course of 5 minutes, I heard stories about Pete Vagenas, Tyrone Marshall, Jake Basano, Nick Basano, and that was just 5 minutes with 5 different people. I'm so fired up for next year. It's going to be really fun to reminisce and to storytell and to re-engage with a lot of people who have been a part of this club for 50 years. That's number one. Number two, thank you again for your role you played in the brand identity. I hope you love it. I think a lot of you were there on September 26th when we got to look back at the work that we built together. Your fingerprints are all over it, and many of you were in the room on March 4th, I think, CCL final, when we actually got to see some designs and put some post-it notes and to provide feedback in terms of what was working and what didn't and what felt like the club and what didn't. And so I love the fact that it didn't leak. It means that everyone took pride in the fact that they had equity in it not leaking, which means that the process was the right process. So when we think about the 50th anniversary, don't think of it as another thing that's going to happen in addition to all the things that happen normally over the course of a match. The 50th anniversary is going to be the road that runs through everything we do. So when you think about match day, there's going to be 50th anniversary match day components. where we activate in the concourse, the storytelling that shows up on the video boards, the way that we bring the history and heritage to life on field, what the guys are wearing on their over their heart with a new crest. We get to see the identity come to life. It's also going to live in everything we do on non-match day beyond the 90. So when you think about all of our content, all of our storytelling, the things that we do normally, we're just going to weave these stories to be a part of it. There will be some key initiatives that show up. One of the most exciting key initiatives is the training facility that we talked about, in being able to pull in 50 years of our heritage into a physical space. That is something that no other club can do. And when you see other teams launch training facilities, it's beautiful. It's got a couple graphic designs and some paint and nothing more. It doesn't have the soul and the depth of what this club has had for 5 decades. Key initiative number 2 is, what was I going to think about? I think one of the things that we've been building with the 50th anniversary committee, I know the idea of a Hall of Fame or some sort of a way to formalize a process to acknowledge those who have represented this club exceptionally. These are the types of initiatives that we're planning on building and building collectively to continue to engage through voting and empowering our fan base to have a voice in memorializing those heroes. Third key initiative, I'm trying to think of it. We've got a lot of fun storytelling and content. We've had some ideas in terms of player profiles from over the years, or the untold stories, some of which may or may not be things we want to resurface, but there's just so much depth that we can bring to life. And I'm excited to hear what your ideas are and how we can build off of them and take some of our ideas and make them better with yours. Do you want to do that now, Cameron, or do you want to do that at questions at the end?
Let's do questions at the end real quick, because we want to give Craig a chance to talk. I mean, I think one thing you can definitely talk to is, I think you told us that this is the second time you've taken over from Garth at a club. So maybe talk about the process of coming into the Sounders and
No, the process coming here has been great. I grew up in the Northwest, for those that haven't heard me ramble on about that before, but grew up in Northern Idaho and went to high school in Spokane and went to University of Washington and played there before I played for the Sounders for 2 years. So that was back in the Memorial Stadium / Renton Stadium days. If any of you claim to have been there, I'm gonna call your bluff. Renton Stadium too? Well, I'm still calling it.
1997.
I remember a lot of seats. So but the adventure took me away and along in MLS, 10 years in MLS, and then into coaching, and then to Salt Lake as an assistant coach. Our general manager left us high and dry for a team in the Northwest, and I was offered the position in Salt Lake. So I was the general manager in Salt Lake for 5 years prior to a year off, about 14 months off, and then had the opportunity to come back, which has been fantastic. When I was able to speak to Adrian and speak to Garth about the opportunity to come back to this club and what this club represents, how it's perceived, having played for the club, but also having admired the club from outside was quite an opportunity. So it brought me back. I don't think I'm gonna follow Garth again. So I think that part of the adventure is done. But it's been an easy transition this year, and to be honest, tough decisions in my role are kind of day to day and normal. But in terms of the support, showing up on game days, it took maybe a little bit of stubbornness from me, and probably said some things in the middle of the year some of you didn't agree with in terms of the talent of this team and the abilities of this team. But we've seen it come back together, and that's something that, frankly, Coach Smetzer's figured out year after year after year. So, is that it? Am I out?
You want to speak a little bit to the play on the field this year, and maybe just a short look at what you're thinking moving forward? Obviously, you're not really going to tell us who we're signing at DP.
Am I? So I'll talk about the first 4 games, and then I'll talk about the last 12 games. And then there was a stretch there where we didn't play soccer. Through the middle of the year, we kind of forgot to play attacking soccer anyway. Defensively, we've been sound all year, and obviously that's what's kept us relevant. You know, when we've struggled to score, our defense and our team defending has been really, really nice and compact. And so, you know, it's an interesting year in terms of we wanted to give this group another run at this, and they've proven us right. They're convincing right now. And the 3 games against Dallas were nothing short of convincing, minus 20 minutes in Dallas. If you look statistically at possession, shots, every category, we were dominant. And so it's nice to kind of see the plane take off at the right time of the year. And in terms of how it was managed throughout the year, yeah, some of you have heard me say this, they've heard me say this way too many times. My job is to put the roster together. The coach's job is to coach. I don't tell the coach who to play. When the coaching staff asks for an opinion, I give it. But the job I consider myself to have is put a roster together that has enough talent for the coaches to do their job and do it well. And so it's a nice balance. You know, it's non-contentious. And frankly, the real questions and the conversations that I have with the coaching staff when it comes down to talent and roster is, do you have enough or not? And throughout this year, they've kind of consistently said, yeah, we're good. We have enough talent when you look at the roster, when you look at it on paper. And there was maybe a moment in the middle of the year where I said, prove it. Perhaps a little more animated than that, but they did. And that's because the talent not only the players have, but because the talent our staff has. They are a remarkable group that puts a lot of work into this, a lot of hours. It's really, it's an astonishing game because we get 2 hours a week to prove to you guys that we worked enough the other 5 or 6 days, and I assure you there's a lot of hours that are blind to the public and to the fan base that are spent lamenting over every little mistake. Now do you want to know the DPs?
Yeah.
Is that what,
No,
is that where we're going?
what is your vision moving forward? You know, how do you see, what's your concept for building a team,
Yeah.
especially as we have some contracts running out?
Well, we have a couple contracts running out. Look, the way I view it, and I've been in this a long time, I represented myself, and then I moved into the front office, so I might not come across as emotional as you want me to. Trust me, it's there, it's underlying, I am human. These tough decisions bother me. They're affecting humans, they're affecting families, they're affecting men, women, kids. So I don't take any of these decisions lightly, and I don't sleep well from about September until preseason when we have a roster again. And there's some tough decisions to make, but the easiest way for me to put it into words the way I view it is it's kind of like a high school. We have a graduating class every year. The roster will never be identical from year to year, ever. We'll have a graduating class, we'll have some kids transfer, we'll have a few things happen along the way, but some years you lose the star quarterback, the star point guard, and you've got to go out and replace him. That's just how life goes. And there's an evolution in soccer, there's an evolution in every single club. And as long as we do it honestly, as long as we do it looking people in the eye, as long as we provide information, we're going to create relationships that last for a long time. I use myself as an example. When I was released after 10 years, it was a very honest conversation with my coach. In the moment, I maybe didn't agree with everything he said, but the truth is about a week later, I woke up and I said, I got a lot of respect for that. You know, he looked me in the eye, he told me what he thought. Clearly we had a difference of opinion because I thought I was still good enough. He didn't. But he had a job to do. And sometimes that's going to involve salary cap decisions. Sometimes it's going to involve talent decisions, roster balance decisions. And sometimes in MLS, we still have a salary cap. The majority of our decisions are made because of finances. And that's where my job becomes a little more objective than subjective. I don't get to have as much of the emotional toll come in on that final decision, because at the end of the day, there's one thing that happens about a block and a half from here, and that is this team wins. And that's what you guys expect. And I heard it a lot this year, mostly in the middle. But that's the expectation. That's the expectation we all have. It doesn't change. I expect them to win at every question you've asked them about business. And I expect them to win in the community. And they expect me to help this team win on the field. And so that's really how I approach it. It's not as much of a roller coaster for me as it used to be. And I hope that kind of steers us in the right direction in the next couple of years, because there's some really tough decisions to make. You guys are all well aware of one of those tough decisions and tough conversations this year, but there's more coming. And the point in my job is to make sure that when we have to make a tough decision, we make it correctly, we make it respectfully, and we move on correctly, and we bring in the next player. That helps you guys show up to the stadium on Saturdays and see a few more goals in the next couple of years than we've seen this year.
Wonderful, thank you.
Just two quick things. One, I had not heard the high school analogy. I kind of like that, given all the drama that
Thanks,
happens on a soccer team. Like, that is a good analogy. And two, wives super modest, very even hand this year, which I appreciate. I've been told that there are some owners that can be emotional about like the team, and
Never with me.
can call general managers and ask pointed questions. That so I appreciate your calm in the face of craziness.
You just wait until the final whistle. It sorts itself out. I always say my job on a game day, people ask me how I'm doing. I say, I'll tell you in a couple hours. I really have an easy job on a game. I walk across the end zone. I go upstairs. I watch the game. I come back down. I'll always shake the hands of every player and coach at every home game, the away games that I do go to. As they come off the field, I think it's important that human contact, that moment of whether we've succeeded together or failed together, is together. So I look each one of them in the eye and shake their hand. But the moment is really with the coaching staff is, I mean, it's 1 point's better than none, or on to the next one, or hell of a game. 3 points is awesome. And that's my job on a game day. And then to leave and get out of their way and let them go talk about how it happened and what happened. And then I come back in on Monday and Tuesday and create chaos. So, I mean, it's all over.
Thank you, everybody up here on the stage area. But part of what makes this a special event is that you get to hear directly from our Alliance members. And so now we're opening it up to Q&A for the rest of the evening. Dwayne has a microphone.
No, Tim.
So if you raise your hand, Dwayne will bring you the microphone. We got to make sure you ask the question on mic so that everyone can hear it on the recording afterwards.
You already asked me before. I will not play on your over 40 team. You asked me at the bar.
Earlier, talking about Apple and exposure and getting new eyeballs, one thing that I noticed over the first round of the playoffs is there was a game every single night. It seemed like a different game. So I'm watching team. One thing that's tough this year with Apple is I know my players, your players, our players, but the other teams are completely foreign to me. And in watching Columbus, I'm like, who the heck are these guys? If there's a way that we can spread out different games, different nights, to get more exposure around the world, even different times of day. You said Saturday at 7:30. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go first, and then I had this conversation with Adrian too, because he's like, I really like Leagues Cup. He's like, I get to home in every single night between July 25th and August 18th. He's like, there was
Not for us. We only played for 1
was
week.
a match. There was a match. So there's been 2 periods where we've been able to see the difference, right? So over the course of the regular season, there were 6 or 7 competition Wednesdays, and then the rest was 7:30 local in each market, with the exception of whenever there was a linear television opportunity where you play on a Saturday at 1 or a Sunday at 1. I think what was asked of the club was to try to make sure that we could play on the right days and allow our fans to be able to show up to matches. I know someone's probably going to ask about Mariners overlaps, and so even before we go there, I'll kind of head it off. I always start those considerations from data. So we had 6 overlaps with the Mariners this year. They're tough. I get it. The traffic is real. Sometimes dividing the sports community from an attendance and a viewership perspective. Last year we had 7. The year before we had 10. And so it has been a challenge that we've gotten better at in terms of the operations and working with our municipalities to make sure that the traffic is as efficient as it possibly can be. But with respect to the league's strategy related to spreading out matches over a longer period of time or consolidating viewership over a 6-hour window from 4:30 Pacific until 9:30 Pacific, maybe lean on you guys to answer.
So it's a great question. One of the things that the Wednesday, Saturday schedule was based on was our fans our season ticket holders, people who attend games saying, I wish your games were consistent so that we could schedule and that has played out in ticket sales, show up rates, across the entire league. So it has kind of created a little bit of a conundrum. I agree. I love having things spread out. I hate to, like, on a Saturday night, everything's going on at the same time and it's 4 hours of soccer and then it's over for the weekend, and I'd rather watch for 12 hours. There are, let's see, what can I say? Our league, Apple are aware that maybe we swung the pendulum too far. And so I think that there's an opportunity to explore a game of the week, a couple of games, in different time slots. So I guess all I can say, I don't know what'll happen next year, but people are aware that is a complaint or disappointment, and again, we want more people watching more of our games. So if it's not possible, then that's not good.
I'd like them to be staggered because it's really awkward when I'm watching a game during our game. Yeah, trying to watch 2 at the same time.
So this is a question about development of young players, 15 to 18-year-olds. And from a fan perspective, it's always exciting when you see that new young player get on the first team. Everybody's hoping they're going to be that next superstar. I'd say in recent years, I have a different opinion about that because I think about what we were like at that age. And maybe a player at that age has the athleticism and skill to play at that level, but do you really consider the mental, emotional, physical maturity of that player? And is it maybe better to keep them in Tacoma longer so they can develop more and keep confidence? Because it's a huge transition no matter the sport, going from those amateur lower leagues to the professional leagues where everybody's a stud, basically. So any comment on that?
Just before I jump on that, I want to say I did not plant that question.
Oh, I am not affiliated with anyone.
So there's a lot to that, right? And our development, it goes all the way down to like 11, 12. We've got sports psychology, we've got nutrition now involved all the way through our academy and into the first team. And so we're addressing not only the physical development, the technical development, the tactical development, but also the mental. And that's a big piece for us because you're right, it's the maturity. Just because there's talent doesn't mean there's maturity to manage that moment. Believe it or not, you guys, it's not easy to play in front of you for a 16-year-old. Your support is overwhelming at times. And so we are learning along. Every single one of these young men are different. And so some of them are ready. to jump in and just go. But we saw Jackson Reagan's a good example. He's a little bit older, but last year we put him in, he played well, we left him in. We kind of ran him out until he played a bad game, as opposed to managing that mental aspect of taking him out before he had the opportunity to play that. We just kind of gambled, and then he played a bad game. And what happens is, this is not a big secret, what happens is when a player plays poorly, the coaches don't like him. So he got taken out, right? And so then it's a different approach to development. When it comes to playing young players, I assure you, we are not advising our coaches to play a player because we think you'll like it, or because we think they're going to be the next star, because we think they're going to fetch a transfer fee in 3 years. We're encouraging our coaches to play the players that are most ready in that week, in that moment, in that game, in that matchup. And so what has happened in years past is we put players in and they play well, and we assume they're going to play well next week. But the matchups are different, right? If you play Colorado and you play well this year, that's a different game if the next week is LAFC, naturally. And so those are the things that we are also maturing as an organization, the way we're managing those minutes, the way we're managing those moments. And Reed Baker Whiting is this year's example of a player that was very slowly integrated into the group. And you've seen his performances over the year. And for those of you that watched the Open Cup games, a couple good games in the middle, left him with Defiance for about a month and a half, 5-6 more games with Defiance before he got that next shot. And when he did at the end of the season, prior to that injury, and he's healthy again, just so you know, so he's available. But you see how the development, and we're learning on the fly as well. And this development's new in America. We've talked about it a long time. It's been a real cool catchphrase word. But the truth is, we're still learning as we go. And we're still trying to get every single one of them right.
Wibes, why don't you also, there is no one path. There are 10 different ways that this develops.
Yeah, I mean, yes. The answer is yeah, there is no one path. And anyone who tells you there's one path, just give them my number and I'll tell them they're a fool. I mean, again, going back to the individual, some players need college. Dylan Tevez physically wasn't ready when he was coming out of our academy. He went to University of Washington, had those 4 more years of maturation on and off the field, physically in the weight room, and he was an All-American, so it made sense to bring him back in. Jackson Reagan, a great example of someone who wasn't ready out of the academy, went to college, came back. It could be academy, it could be club, it could be college, it could be Defiance, right away and maybe a loan. And we've loaned players to 3rd division in Austria recently, and whether or not you caught that, good for you if you did. But we kind of sneak a few things around for these players to develop as well. And get those, that's about more of an international experience and going somewhere and being on your own and not being at home and not eating familiar food and all of those things that are required to grow up.
Yeah, I got a kind of a 2-part. The first one should be pretty easy. So I'm on the Alliance Council. I try to reach out to my constituents. I have a Facebook group for Section 113, and I say, hey, anybody got a question for the business meeting? There's a couple of complaints about parking, people who pay for they called it season ticket parking. I wasn't aware of that. I guess there were some complaints about last Friday not being able to get out because everything was blocked, and somebody else is complaining about how far they have to walk and stuff like that. Who can they talk to about that?
Adrian.
I'll pick them up on my way to the stadium.
So the quick answer is they can always call their rep and they can get intel on. There are 3 places you can get season-long parking with your membership. A lot of them are sold out because their supply is so limited. There's a north lot across the street. There's Union Garage across the street a little bit east. And then there's the garage, the Lumen Field garage, which is in between T-Mobile Park and Lumen. Our inventory of spots changes, depends on what's going on in the stadium district. When there's a Mariners game going on, it impacts our parking. When there's concerts in the WAMU Theater, it impacts our parking. And when there's ancillary events, it impacts the experience of those who are driving into the stadium district. And so Michaela's here. She works with the stadium and provides the feedback. But if someone's looking for parking that they need, there are options that are available. Not all three of those are available. There are parking is now included in return ticket credit. So if you have parking on your account, you want to give it back to us, that opens it up for somebody else. And I'm sorry the experience was poor, but I think that hopefully when the light rail opens up, we're going to have more ways to get people down here in the urban core. So we want to make it as easy as possible for people to show up to Lumen.
Thanks for that. And
Was that the easy one or the hard one?
well, this next one's for you, Adrian. So I'll let you figure out whether it's. I guess I'll start with I went to the St. Louis game. I got to see a couple of my fellow supporters get kicked out of that match for an iron flag and the Always Seattle flag. I kind of want to capture that with a couple other examples. And I wanted to ask you, Adrian, how you deal when the outside world creeps into the Sounders world. And the other examples I'll give you, I remember a while back, you seemed really worked up about the gun violence thing. And I think you were planning on reaching out to other people. We all wore orange shirts. I wanted to hear if anything came out of that or what your thoughts are, how you deal with stuff like that. And the third example I would say is Palestinian flags, Israeli flags, or other countries' flags. When these things happen, when the outside world encroaches on the Sounders world, how the heck do you deal with that? Because I'm relatively impressed because it's pretty hard. And when I look at the teams south of us and the problems they have, I'm glad to be a Sounders fan.
Well, look, I appreciate it, I think. No. Look, it's excruciating. It's excruciating. I don't sleep. I worry first and foremost about security, safety, an inclusive environment in the stadium. Because if that is breached, this whole thing goes away. I have my political leanings. I am very sympathetic to certain causes, but I don't know that it's my place to insert my politics. There are a bunch of owners. We say we are a steward of this franchise for our community. I am a believer in disparate and variety of speech, especially in a world today where it is one side or the other. Like there is no middle, and I just don't believe that. I think it's the only path to a high-functioning society is to communicate and have differences of opinion and diversity, and we do the best we can. Honestly, I have no right answer. One person says we ban supporters and that we are tyrants. Another fan says, thank you. It's an impossible position. We come out and comment on certain things that happen in the world and lean in, and we don't in others. It's an impossible situation. There's no win. I'll go back. It's excruciating. I appreciate you. I don't know the right answer. We try to live our values as best as we can for the most of our community, but no matter what we do and say, there is a giant portion of people who disagree. and are pissed about it. And we just have to do the best we can, going back to that core thing, which is we want to be inclusive at our stadium. We want anybody to feel like they can come. But we draw the line, we have to draw the line that anything that we feel encroaches on the safety and harmony in the building, sometimes we come down hard, sometimes we don't. Again, I have no perfect answer to the question, but it is.
The league weighs in as well, right?
Yeah, and we are part of a league. That's right. We're part of a league. Teams in other cities have different rules. Some, they have different rules about pyrotechnics. They have different rules. Stadiums have rules about flags. Different jurisdictions. If we weren't in Seattle, we were in a different jurisdiction. They might have different rules and regulations as well. So yeah, we fit into a league that fits into a global football family. So it is multi-layered, complicated, painful. This group and others have to deal with it as well. It takes an extraordinary amount of time from this organization. Dealing deep conversation, hours and hours of conversation about how to deal with these things. Conversation that takes away from trying to sell tickets and bring the next generation of fans to the games and drive the value add that we think we can bring to our community. But it is the world we live in today, and so we do the best we can.
Can you take a question from this side? We're running low on time, but and then hopefully if y'all could stick around a few minutes to talk to people afterwards, after the event, that would be wonderful.
Now I realize this might be something that you can't talk about just yet, but I know that reports have come out that the Sounders are potentially looking into purchasing the OL Reign, and I think that women's soccer in the last couple of years has had this huge growth, the new media deal, all that kind of stuff, and I think that a missing part that the Reign have had is that while they have moved up to Lumen Field, the OL part of it has seemed to is a great brand for women's soccer, but we took out part of Seattle's kind of ownership of it. And I was wondering if you could speak to any part of that. Again, I know that all these terms are probably not behind closed doors and things, but if there's anything you can say to that kind of thing.
Here I go again. This is easier though, I think. And I can't give you a great answer other than I am so proud to have a partnership with the Reign today. Super excited about what the future holds for the Reign. Obviously disappointed in the result this past weekend, and obviously gutted for Megan, as a last game for her. But we are super enthusiastic and believe equally that the trajectory is absolutely amazing, and the opportunity to work closer with the Reign would be really cool. So maybe I'll leave it at that for now and let the process play out. Yeah.
I guess one more question over here.
Thank you. Adrian, in your previous answer, you mentioned the word inclusivity a few times, and I'm curious what, if the front office and ownership group have worked together and defined what inclusivity means to the Sounders, and what you all are doing to make that apparent in the community, in the supporters, in the stadium, and in your own work.
I might lean on my friend Maya. Are you?
Sure. That's okay. No. Look, I'm going to say that the work is hard. The answer, thank you. This is an important question to all of us that are sitting up here. We spent the better part of the last 6-8 months, so between sort of February and midsummer, redefining our values internally as an organization. So started with ourselves, making sure that when we show up to work, when we're all under one roof next year, that we all know what we stand for and how we want to show up and work together. This was a employee-led process. Every single employee in the organization participated in this on the team side and the front office side. And the two words that came up most often from across our organization were inclusive culture and community. Now, we have 8 core values as an organization that came out of that process, but inclusivity was the one that everyone, and I mean this sincerely, weighed in on. What that means for us as an organization internally, as I show up to go to work with these folks here, is that I get to show up as my whole self every day, that I'm valued for the different opinions that I bring to the table, the perspective that I bring to the table, and that I seek and value those opinions from all of my colleagues walking in the door. That when we talk about inclusive culture, it is not enough to just show up, but also to make sure that we're evolving our policies, the way that we behave, the systems that we put in place, whether that is in a recruitment or retention, whether that is just the way you fill out a form, that those kinds of behaviors come from that value. We also, over the last 2 years, have partnered with an organization called the Center for Equity and Inclusion out of Portland. They lead systems change for organizations, usually healthcare systems, school systems that work with diverse groups of people, helping youth as well, because we know we have a lot of youth that we work with, not only internally in the organization on the team side, but also in the community. We spent last year in a robust consciousness raising, bias training. The entire leadership team of the organization went through that, as well as an equity team of self-selected employees who raised their hand and said, this is the work I want to do. We spent this year developing our first ever equity plan as an organization, doing that work in parallel to defining our values. And so you will see in 2024, as we start this new chapter and we go into our new space with our first ever DEI statement that defines the way that we think we can show up in community. I don't want to get ahead of the work that is still being done by my colleagues, the hard work that is being done and the hours they've put in, but it will help define exactly when we say inclusivity is a core value of who we are as an organization, how that translates into the community. We want to become the most inclusive, fan-friendly experience in Seattle and in Major League Soccer, period, full stop. We have to define collectively what that future state of our stadium on match day looks like. That's work we want to do with all of you as we set that marker out there of what does that look like qualitatively. How do we do that? How do we make sure the school teacher and the student that she wants to inspire, he wants to inspire, can come to match day? How is the Brome End the envy of every single fan base in the world, because everyone wants to be a part of it? We don't always have to agree. You don't have to ever agree with the front office. I get that, but you want to be a part of it. That's the next 50 years. So we've been working on ourselves in that space, but I know that I am a badass, proud Filipina, mama bear, all of those things, and all of these folks here know that about me, and I know those same things about everyone that I go to work with, and that is what we've spent this year working on.
All right, one more, I guess.
I had a question,
Yeah, back here. Hi. So Mindy kind of asked basically what I was going to ask, which is, we talk about shared values and championing those. So I kind of wanted to know what your idea of some of those values are. You covered some of that. You also mentioned equity. So one of the things I would like to ask specifically about those values is that equity. Soccer for all came from supporters, meaning that it's a game that should be for everybody. People are being priced out of it. People aren't feeling welcome. So, what do we do about things like dynamic pricing, about limiting capacity so there aren't more affordable seats in the building? What do we do about making people who don't feel welcome on match day feel more welcome? and including those people who are trying to use their voice to help them feel welcome.
Thanks, Cal. We're just looking at this from a couple different lenses. So there was a lot there. I'll tackle the maybe the affordable pricing and the business side of it first. Just so I can answer a couple other questions, I start with just some facts. So our average ticket price is 15th in Major League Soccer, so we're right in the middle. We've always stood for Soccer for All, and we have mechanisms for fans to be able to come in and experience match day. I think through your leadership and your ideation, we've got the 1974 offer that's available for 100% of matches. It's never sold out, other than the CCL final, by the way. So if we have people that have barriers to entry, we should continue to educate them. The pricing aspect of what you talked about, whether it's dynamic pricing or variable pricing, actually creates more entry points across our matches. So there are more matches that come below our average to make sure that there's no price considerations. Simultaneously, we're trying to compete with other teams that are pushing hard with revenues. And so for us to be able to compete on the same time, we're making decisions that are trying to maximize the best for the business, the best for the brand, and the best for Soccer for All simultaneously. And that is not always one decision for all of them, but we take a lot of pride in making sure our match day is accessible for all. A lot of the ways we do that are through the benefits we provide memberships that empowers you to give us your tickets when you can't use us so we can get in the hands of someone who can. We just want someone to be in the seat so that we can sit and stand shoulder to shoulder and experience match day in advance. I think the lens by which we're thinking about doubling our fan base in the next 5 years is critical. Our match day is super sticky, and so we can get people into the match. There is a emotional reaction that comes from the willingness to want to come and be a part of it. I think that's a testament to the culture that we have tried to build together. I think there's opportunities for us to continue to make it more accessible and more equitable for everyone.
I'll just add that we can't solve everything. You know, the RAVE Foundation and Building Fields is one effort to provide accessibility. For sure, there are kids being priced out of youth soccer, and it's one small piece to the puzzle. You know, there may be opportunities at our new facility to bring, you know, some kids in, but again, we can't do everything. We can't solve every problem, but we can use our voices to try to bring about some of that change and use use whatever resources we can to kind of build it one brick at a time and try to impact kids one child at a time.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it. If you have questions after the event, please don't mob everyone, but politely come up and ask them so you can get your questions answered. And it's really great that you all here took the time to come out, and for anyone that watches this on the recording, we really appreciate you.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say bye, so yeah.
Okay, I'll say goodbye as well. But I really, again, appreciate everyone here. Appreciate everyone on this whatever this is, these seats. The quiet gentleman to my left, Hugh, again, makes comments like, "Hey, if no one knows who I am, I'm doing my job well." But Hugh, you know, again, the quality, hopefully the depth of answers, aside from mine, you know, they come from empowering people, developing people, building a culture that feels comfortable with truth and honesty and transparency. And Hugh's, you know, been here for 9 months now, 8-9 months, and is getting his feet under him, and but has done amazing work. And so I really appreciate you, again, you guys on the stage, and a whole bunch of other people, Michaela and the team, Andre, a lot of people involved here who put this on. and of course, Alliance Council and our entire fan base. Go Sounders on Sunday, or no, not Sunday, a week from Sunday.
So yeah, come on, November 26th. Come
We
on.
have practice on Sunday. You can say something. We have practice.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.